Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing some championship season predictions. We're going to go from 24th all the way up to 1st to see who I think is going to get relegated, who I think is going to make the playoffs, and also who's going to go up automatically. We're going to be going from 24th all the way to 1st to see who I've got down as relegated, who I think is going to get the playoffs, and who is going to get those two automatic places. This season, the championship is better than it's ever been before. There are so many quality players throughout all 24 teams. Well, maybe 23 teams, but there is so much quality there nonetheless. I think it's going to be a very exciting season, so let's get into this. But before we do so, I just want to say a massive thank you. The support for the channel so far has been great. I'm very appreciative, and we've got a lot more to come. Now, we're going to follow the exact same concept as I did for League 1 and League 2, so I'm going to give the club and where I think they're going to finish, and I'm also going to give a key player and the best signing as well. As I mentioned, the championship this season is a joke. So before you run down to the comments to give me some stick, genuinely, it is so hard to place all the teams, but I think I've got it near enough spot on. There might be a few places that may move depending on the transfer window and what happens in the last couple of weeks, but overall, I'm happy. So yeah, enough chat. Let's get into this. In 24th place, it may not come as a surprise to many, and if I'm going to be honest, I don't like this prediction whatsoever. I shouldn't be doing a prediction where the off-the-pitch activities affect the predictions. But unfortunately, Sheffield Wednesday, we all know who I'm talking about, they are going to finish 24th. And it's a disgrace what's happening at the club. There's players not getting paid. More importantly, there's staff not getting paid. The EFL has got to come in and stop these owners doing what they're doing because it is ruining football. All of these clubs, the Morecambes, Buries, Sheffield Wednesdays, and many more, the history that is in these clubs can vanish in an instant, and it is appalling. Sheffield Wednesday fans, let me know if there's any optimism from you guys. I fear it might be a very tough season for you. Nonetheless, key player, it's Barry Bannon, and I think it's admirable that he has decided to stay at the club. It really feels like we're seeing the captain going down with the sinking ship. You know, so many people have left Sheffield Wednesday. Danny Roll, in my opinion, is the biggest one. No Danny Roll, I don't see any chance of staying up. I also think Josh Windass was a big blow. He's obviously gone to Wrexham. Overall, Sheffield Wednesday, there's no signings to talk about. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be a very tough season, and I just see it ending in League 1 football for them. 23rd place, I've got Hull City, and if Sheffield Wednesday weren't in the trouble that they're in, I would have Hull City finishing bottom. I just simply don't see enough. I think the owners got it unbelievably wrong the last couple of seasons. I mean, Rosenior and Sellers, to sack those two managers and for them to both go on and get far better jobs, I think that shows exactly the mistake that he made. I look at the squad, as I say, I'm not 100% sold on how good it is. I think they're relying on a lot of youth in places that may not be as reliable as some people may think. Injuries definitely hampered them last season, but regardless, I still don't think it'll be enough, even with injured players coming back. And in terms of the key player, I'm actually going to go for a player who was injured last season, and that's Liam Miller. On his day, a very good winger. Do I think that he'll have his day very often this season? In this Hull side, maybe not, but he will be the bright spark. If there's anything that's going to come from this season as a positive for Hull, it will most likely be him. And I think Hull fans, I imagine he is the player you're looking to rely on. It will be interesting if he can stay injury-free. I guess if Hull do have a chance of staying up, he's going to be at the forefront of it. But I think it's going to be quite a miserable season for Hull. Best signing is going to be Ajayi. I think we talked about there being a bit of youth in the squad. This is going to bring some vital experience. He's just a good championship centre-back. I don't think it's one where you look at and it's very glamorous and it's going to steal the show. I also don't think it's one that you're going to look at and think there's a lot of resale value here. It's a man to come in and do the job. And realistically, Ajayi, was he winding down a little bit as well? I think so, a little bit. So, yeah, best signing. It's a sensible signing, but not enough to keep Hull up from the drop. The final relegation spot is going to go to Preston for me. And the main reason behind this is, other than Thierry Small, the business has just been a bit bang average. Like, there's just no one on there that makes me go, yeah, that's going to push Preston up the table. And as I mentioned, with the quality that is in this league this season, I think they're going to find themselves in a real spot of bother. But with that, their key player has been and will continue to be Ben Whiteman. Very solid centre midfielder. I just think in terms of consistency and a player that's going to drive you potentially out of the relegation zone, it will all go around him. I look at him as a sort of heartbeat to the team. If he can have another consistent season and also bring in the other lads around him and inspire them, maybe they have a chance. I think Hull are pretty much nailed on, but Preston could swap between one or two teams. It is a bit interchangeable for that final spot, but at the moment, Paul Heckingbottom, I don't think he's going to do enough for them. I'm not overly convinced on Heckingbottom. I think, unfortunately, Preston, it's going to be a very bad season for you and it's going to end in relegation. The one positive was the signing of Thierry Small. I think this was a very clever signing and I think he's going to offer them a lot. I'm going to be very interested to see where he plays, whether he's sort of in the midfield, drops a bit further back. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it's a very solid pickup and he's either a great fullback, a great wing back or a great winger. Very versatile and Paul Heckingbottom's got himself a good player there. 21st place, as I mentioned, very interchangeable and one of those teams is Blackburn. Now, they've lost a couple of players this season and they have recruited and replaced them. I'm not 100% sure on the quality of the replacements and we'll have to see how they get on. But overall, for me, Ismail is not the man to take them forward. I just don't see it. I think he's riding off that time at Barnsley. He didn't do very well for West Brom. I'm just not overly convinced on the appointment here. But it's not just Ismail, it's also the squad itself. They don't inspire me to think, yes, this is a squad that's going to push themselves away from relegation. I think there's a lot of areas they need to improve on. The transfer window is still in play, so maybe they'll plug a few holes somewhere, but I just can't see it myself. The squad isn't good enough, and I feel as though they may be getting left behind. The Championship, as I say, is getting so much better season on season, and they are in decline. Key player, I'm going to go for Todd Cantwell. This was quite a difficult one to pick for all the wrong reasons, if I'm honest. But I'm going to go for Todd Cantwell, and I think it's because they're not going to score many goals this season. I think defensively they might be all right, but going forward they'll struggle to score a few goals. Cantwell, to me, is going to be the one that's going to have to take the team by the scruff of the neck and go and show, actually, that he does have a bit of potential. Remember when he was linked with joining even Aston Villa, he was linked with joining Tottenham. Those times don't exist anymore, but he needs to prove a little bit that he's still got a bit of it. And if he does, I think he'll keep them safe. But I think Blackburn and Preston, it could be either or. Best new signing, Lewis Miller. So he, I believe, is the Callum Britton replacement. I'm not going to act like I've watched the Scottish Premier League tons and tons, but this guy's stats fit the bill for the Championship in terms of physicality, tackling, but also getting up the pitch as Callum Britton liked to do. So it will be an interesting one. I just looked at this and thought, okay, is this going to be another player that comes from Scotland that just does really well in England and shows that they certainly are of the level of at least a Championship player? 20th place, I am going for Portsmouth. I genuinely like Mourinho. I think he's a very good manager and I think he's proven that he can definitely hack it in the Championship. My problem is that they were very reliant on home form. And I just feel as though this season is going to be slightly harder. Remember, he's now had a whole season in charge. Teams will understand how he sets his team up. And I just think there's going to be a slight decline. I don't think they'll go down. I think it's going to go down right to the wire. But I think overall they'll have enough to keep them safe. Maybe it will be that home form that is quite good that will push them over the line. As I say, I think there'll be a decrease. But I think overall they'll be fine. Key player, Josh Murphy, nice and simple one. What a season he had last season. Not to mention as well, he was a free transfer. Talk about value for money. There is something about these Murphy brothers. The older they get, the better they get. Genuinely, what a season from him. Jacob has had the last 2 or 3 seasons as quite good. I think he's going to push on again. I'm not sure whether he'll get all the numbers he got last season, but even if he gets 30, 40, 50% of those numbers, he'll help the team massively. And it actually leads me on to the best new signing. So Aiden Segasic. Now, we know Portsmouth like to do business in the A-League, and they've seemed to have done it again. They've signed a 21-year-old winger, and he looks very promising. He plays on the left wing, so I'm assuming that Murphy and him might share a bit of game time. So when Murphy's having a bit of a bad game or he's not quite impacting the game as Mourinho would want to, maybe he'll bring Segasic in, and this will breed a new lease of life. So this is more of a one-to-watch signing than maybe the best signing, but I do think this season, maybe next season, he's going to have a big impact on the team. And overall, look, he's from the A-League. I can't talk too much on him, but I feel as though from what I've seen from his stats and a bit of a highlight reel, he could be a very good player. 19th place, I feel as though this team will sort of be the top of the relegation candidates, and that is Oxford. Now, a lot of people have got Oxford to go down. Some people have got them to be right down there, maybe not quite relegated. And for me personally, I don't understand where this has come from. I like what Oxford are building. I think they did really well to stay in the Championship last season. They've got Gary Rowett, who to me is a very proven good manager. And overall, they've kept a lot of the key players from last season, if not all of them. So realistically, if you're going to take that squad from last season, why couldn't they still go on to achieve maybe more, but also just to stay in the league? Especially when I think there's teams like Preston and Blackburn, as mentioned, and Hull that are in decline, especially when Sheffield Wednesday probably will take one of those places. So really, it's more of a bottom two. I think they'll have enough to stay up, and I think they'll finish, as I say, bottom of those relegated candidates. Maybe just the 9 goals and assists last season, but I think he's going to really push on now. I think he's had a solid season in the Championship, and now we're going to see the best of him. And I think he's going to be the type of player that really helps Oxford survive. The best new signing for Oxford is a bit of a strange one. So it's Luke Harris, who last season was on loan at Birmingham, that didn't really feature too much unless it was off the bench. But for some reason, it's rare you'd say a player went out on loan to League One, didn't make a huge impact, that will now go to the Championship and go down as the club's best signing. I think that is testament, unfortunately, to how good Birmingham were last season. And genuinely, for me, I think he'll go on, and I think not a coming-of-age season, but he'll have a very positive season. He'll fit into Gary Rowett's team very well, and overall, I think there's a lot to like. And Fulham will be keeping a keen eye because he's now at that age where if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So Oxford fans, maybe more of a one-to-watch signing, but keep an eye out for this lad. 18th place, I'm going to go for Queen's Park Rangers. My reason for this is in terms of improvement from last season. There's been a bit, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm going to go on to best signing as Kwame Poku. I'll get there in a moment. But the progress for me off the pitch hasn't been amazing. I know that off the pitch as well, they are one of the best run clubs in England. I think that's pretty much common knowledge now. But I'm just a little bit unsure. So Julian Stephan seems a bit of a risk for me. I'm unsure in terms of how well he'll actually do. I think it's very difficult to actually see how a manager is going to do in English football, even if they've been successful elsewhere. But it's going to be an interesting season. This, for me, could be one where they do push towards mid-table. I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Part of the reason for that is keeping Jimmy Dunn. I think this was almost as good as getting the Kwame Poku deal over the line. I think it's a very, very, very good piece of business and maybe a bit underrated by a majority of people. But I really like Jimmy Dunn, and I think that in that Queen's Park Rangers defence, he's going to be a bit of solidity. Listen, they're never anywhere near the relegation zone for me. But I think that they might finish bottom of the middle of the pack, bottom of the middle, somewhere like that. I mentioned him a minute ago, signing for... I mentioned him a minute ago, the best signing for QPR, it had to be Kwame Poku. One, for the value for money on a free, but also they fended off interest from Birmingham and other clubs as well. So clearly he's brought into the project. I think that he's been more than ready for the Championship now for maybe a season or two, and he's going to really shine. I can't see him maybe getting tons and tons of goals and assists, but I think he'll certainly be up there in terms of an overall rating for the squad and will help them certainly in transition. In 17th place, it's the first newly promoted team, and it is Wrexham. See, Wrexham fans, I feel like I got you a little bit there. Not quite. I'm going to go for Charlton. Charlton, for me, have had a very good window, and I genuinely think they've got more than enough to survive. The recruitment has been sensible. Nathan Jones, is maybe as cringe as he may be, he knows the league very well, and I think that they're going to have a good season. Key players, a bit of a no-brainer on this one. I think it's going to be Connor Coventry. They do have a lot of players that could have been the key player, but Coventry last season, instrumental for them. We mentioned Ben Whiteman as the heartbeat of a team. I also think this is very similar with Connor Coventry. I think he played over 50 games last season, which is ridiculous. So yeah, I think he's going to have another good season. Very consistent player, and I imagine he will be very good in the Championship. Best new signing, we have a player that needs to make it happen. Not because he had a bad season last season, it's Charlie Cowman. He had a very good season for Leyton Orient, but because we now need to see Are you good enough for the Championship, or are you going to be one of those strikers that could never quite make the cut? For me, I think he will make the cut. I think he's now ready to step up, but we're going to have to see. So this is best signing 100%, but also as well, it's one to watch, because if he gets it going, Charlton could really have a great season. If he doesn't, they're going to be relying on Miles Leaburn and other players like that. Are they ready? I'm not 100% sure, but the striker position is so important for Charlton this season, and hopefully Charlie Cowman is the man to drive them forward. 16th place, I have got Mark Robins, Stoke City. Now, Stoke City have obviously got money. They've made some decent signings. They did lose Berger, and they may lose the key player that I'm going to talk about in a minute. My issue with them is genuinely Mark Robins, which may surprise a lot of people. Mark Robins did an amazing job taking League Two Coventry all the way back to the Championship, to a Championship playoff final, an FA Cup semi-final. The job he did cannot be understated. However, tactically, I don't necessarily see him as someone who can really spearhead a club pushing for promotion. Every manager has their ceiling. Take me, Aston Villa fan. Dean Smith, loved him to the core. Unfortunately, in the Premier League, he wasn't good enough to take us forward. We now have Unai Emery, and it works. But back to Stoke, I just don't see Robins as a manager that's going to drive you forward. There's a lot of talk of AD Vivash being the tactical mastermind behind his tactics. Those two are no longer together, so I'm just not sure if Mark Robins is the man to take them forward. Especially if they lose their key player, Victor Johansson, arguably the best goalkeeper in the league. There is interest from Premier League clubs. There's interest from Bundesliga clubs. This guy is meant for the top division. However, he is going to be Stoke's key player. If they can keep hold of him, then maybe they will finish higher than where I have them now. But for me personally, I can't see him staying. I'm not sure where we are at the moment in terms of his actual move. But I knew that Fabrizio has started tweeting about it. And once he starts tweeting about you, you may as well have signed the contract because you're done. So we need to see what happens. But how can you replace 14 clean sheets from last season? That is an unbelievably tough job to do. Listen, they're going to be nowhere near the relegation zone, but in terms of the money that's been invested in taking them forward, I don't think this is going to be the season where they see that growth. Best new signing is actually sort of not a new signing, but is a new signing. It's Ashley Phillips on loan from Tottenham. Had a great season last season, and there was a couple of signings I could have gone for, but I've gone for him because I think clearly Mark Robins does get a lot out of him, and if I do give some credit to Mark Robins, defensively his teams are often quite good. I just think he's going to learn a lot this season. I think he'll bring a lot of consistency. He's very good in the air, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on a second season and seeing if he can make that push to become more of an established Premier League player, whether it's for Tottenham or maybe a lower down team signs him. But yeah, interesting season ahead for Ashley Phillips. 15th place, I do have another newly promoted team. And if you think because there's Villa shirts in the background, it's going to be Birmingham, you're wrong. It is actually Wrexham this time. I just don't see it with them. Now, before I get into this, I do want to preference that I do actually really like Wrexham. A lot of people give Wrexham hate, but personally, I mean, they're trying to build something. They're doing it in a different way. And often when you try and do stuff like that, there is criticism that comes with it. So nothing but respect for what Wrexham are trying to do off the pitch. However, I'm not here to lick their asses and say they're going to be anywhere near the playoffs. And I think anyone that does have them there, what are you seeing? Look at the signings that they've made. Yes, there is a couple of very good signings, but they're going for names. And I think the signings are more focused for the documentary than actually progressing through the league. I think they'll be found out. Parkinson will be gone by Christmas. Then they'll get someone else in. So they'll have a bad start. Parkinson will be gone by Christmas. Maybe they'll go and get a Steve Cooper or someone like that. And maybe not this season, but next season, yeah, they're going to be in and around the playoffs, maybe even automatics. But this season, don't kid yourselves. Wrexham aren't finishing in the top half. Key player, Lewis O'Brien. This is what I was on about. This is a great signing. If they made more signings like this, then yes, I'd have them up there. He'll bring so much quality to the pitch to the point where I had to put him as the key player. I do have someone else for best signing, but he had to be my key player. We mentioned this player at the start of the video for best signing. It's Josh Windass. I mean, again, it's such a shame for Sheffield Wednesday to lose players as they have. But Josh Windass, again, it's a very good signing, a good pickup, a sensible signing for once. It's not just a big name, even though he is a relatively big name, but I think he'll do very well. I can see him getting a lot of goals, a lot of assists. And don't get me wrong, I think Wrexham might score a fair amount of goals, but I think they might be leaky at the back as well. So we'll have to see. But Wrexham fans, let me know if I've got that wrong. For me, it's got to stop somewhere. You need a season to stabilise before you can make the push. The Championship this season, it's out of your league. Listen, end of the season, if Wrexham get the playoffs, I will eat my words and I will happily do so. But for me, as I say, I can't see them even getting in the top half. And if I haven't annoyed Wrexham fans enough in this video, then my 14th place will do that. Because 14th, I've gone for their rivals, Swansea. The reason I've gone for Swansea in this position, I just think that defensively they're going to be very strong. I think Sheehan's had the 2 runs as the caretaker. He's now rightfully been given the manager job. And I think he's really going to push on in not only his career, but helping Swansea as well. I'm not saying it's going to be smooth sailing. There will be some patches where they do struggle, especially because they've lost players like Harry Darling. But I think overall, in terms of recruitment and the squad they just have enough to filter around that mid-table position. And the reason for that is because of key players like Josh Tymon. And I think he is going to have a fantastic season. For me, one of the best left-backs in the league. Very underrated. I'm surprised no one's actually come in for him. He creates chances. He defends well. He's everything you want in a left-back. 7 assists last season. He will be looking to build on that. Very impressive. So we'll see if he can. But yeah, for me, Tymon, best player for them. And the best new signing is a man that can quite literally play anywhere. And that is, of course, Ethan Galbraith. I just think in terms of signing a player that can play multiple positions, but not just play them and fit in, but play them and play well, I think this is one of those signings. And in a season that already has a lot of games, if you have any sort of cup run or anything like that, you're going to need players like this to be relied upon, and I think he will be. So I think it's a very sensible signing, and maybe one that fans will probably look at and think, oh, we've made better. But for me, in terms of a sensible, solid signing, this is your man. 13th place, I am going for Bristol City. Losing Leon Manning will definitely sting them this season, and I think, let's be honest, last season they did overachieve. The playoffs sort of showed that. They got battered. And I think that that's because realistically, should they have been there? Obviously, of course, the season doesn't lie. The points don't lie. They, of course, did. But realistically, were there better teams that could have been in that playoff? Yes. After how last season ended, I just can't see them responding very well. I don't think they'll be anywhere near trouble or anything like that. I just think it will be a mid-table finish for them. I think that Struber has some good praise about him, and so maybe he'll come in and be able to really sort of set the precedent early on and build a good squad. But realistically, they've lost a few players, and as I say, I just can't see them bouncing back very well. Key player, I have gone for Scott Twine, and 8 goals and assists last season. On the surface, looks a bit underwhelming, to be honest. But I think in terms of chance creation, he's right up there. So this season, I'm going to say he needs to get more than 8 goals and assists, and I think he needs to definitely break into the double figures. But I think they're going to need him to start, keep making chances, keep being that lively threat for them if they have any chance of mounting a playoff charge. I don't see it personally, but if they do, it's going to come from him. Best new signing, I've gone for Radak Vitek. Now, it's going to be an interesting one because is he here to replace Max O'Leary? Or is he here to provide competition? I think it's strange to loan a goalkeeper in that isn't going to be your number one. If he is number one, I think it's a very good piece of business, and he's a goalkeeper that's looking to prove himself. So we're going to have to see how this one goes. But regardless, I think the competition for O'Leary, if he still is number one, will be very good. And overall, if you want any form of cup run or anything like that, you need 2 good goalkeepers. So yeah, just a good signing. 12th place, bit of a controversial one. I haven't seen too many people back this team to finish in the top half, but I'm going to go for Derby County. The reason for this is John Eustace. This man is a bit of a miracle worker. He knows this league so well. The board have backed him as well, so I'm expecting Derby to just have a bit of a rise from last season. And I think any of this Derby were doomed for relegation. That is now gone for me. Derby looking to establish themselves as a solid championship team. Key player, Ebu Adams, very strong season last season, very good defensively. And I have a bit of a theory when it comes to defensive midfielders in the championship. If you have a good one, you can go places. If you don't have a good one, it's a very difficult league to be in. Best new signing, it is Patrick Adjimang. What a signing this is. Very exciting for you Derby fans. Let me know how you feel about this one down below. I'll tell you how Dean Smith felt about this one. He was not a happy man. £6 million. I feel like it's probably a fair trade in terms of value for money. But Dean Smith was not happy to see him go, and that tells me that he is a very good player. Derby have clearly got themselves a solid striker, very good in the air. Going to be very interesting to see how John Eustace utilises him. 11th place, we have got Watford. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a massive gamble in terms of the manager. It's a massive gamble in terms of recruitment. But this is just Watford. This is what Watford do. They've done it time and time again. Does it really work? Not really. But will this be the time that it does work? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But there are a few players that I am very excited about. We'll start with a key player. That is George Chakvadzde. I hope I've said that correctly. I do struggle with the Georgian names. Let me know in the comments down below if I got that one right. But him staying is huge news. He creates so many chances for them, the most for them of all last season. I think with him, a new signing I'm going to mention in a moment, and Vata, they could have one of the most exciting attacks in the league. When they all get it going, it's going to be fast-flowing football. I know the manager likes to play fast football as well, attacking football. I'm not going to act like I know too much about him. I did see that he'd won Serie B in Brazil. So he is a manager that has won things. And I saw somewhere that he is the king of promotion or something like that. So we're going to be very interested to see how he gets on. I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on them. Best signing, a player that I am very excited about. And that is Nestroy Irankudu. On loan from Bayern Munich, signed from the A-League. We all saw the hype with this guy. His free kicks, his shot power, his speed, everything about him has it in him to be a top player. Will we see it at Watford? Will he have that breakout season? I am going to tip him to do so. I think Vincent Kompany has looked at the Championship and thinks this is a great league to test him out. Why he sent him to Watford, I don't know. But regardless, I think this is going to go down as certainly Watford's best signing, but maybe even the signing of the season for the Championship. A lot of pressure on the young shoulders. Let's see how he gets on. But I am a big fan. He is part of my Championship stocks. I am backing him to have a good season. Mark my words, keep your eye out, Nestroy Irankudu. 10th place, I am going for West Brom. Ryan Mason is a good appointment for West Brom. I do think their squad is good. I think Ryan Mason, as I say, will have a decent season with them too. I just think they might be in and around the playoffs, but not quite getting there. A lot does rest on West Brom scoring goals. I think the striker position for West Brom has been a problem area for many seasons now, and it's been due to unfortunate things like Daryl DK with his injuries. But this season, have they plugged that hole? I'm going to go on to that in my best signing. But before we do that, we're going to have to talk about who is going to be providing the assists for this new striker, and that is going to be Tom Fellows. He is by far the key player for me. There is Premier League interest. I think he should stay. I think, to be honest with you, it was a toss-up between him and Isaac Price. I've gone for Tom Fellows because I just think in terms of output, Isaac Price does a lot in terms of centre midfield, but they're going to need the goals, as I say, and Tom Fellows is going to be instrumental in that. 18 goals and assists last season. Certainly one ready to make the move to the Premier League. Let's see if, one, he stays for this window, and two, how he gets on in terms of this season. Will he get similar numbers? I think he will. Right, best new signing. Forgive the pronunciation. I'm just going to go for it. Orn Hegber. That's definitely not it. Orn Hegber. The new signing, the Norwegian lad. As I mentioned, DK never quite worked, and this has been a problem position for West Brom. They had Adam Armstrong in last season for half of the season. Again, it was just a bit underwhelming. They are looking for someone to spearhead their charge towards the playoffs, and maybe, just maybe, this is their man. I'm not going to act like I know tons about him. His stats indicate that he's a very good player. Again, how well does that translate from the Scandinavian leagues into the Championship, into English football? I don't know. But what is not to like? When your team gets that new number 9, I've mentioned this before, it is such an exciting time. And hopefully he gets the nod to start on the first game, and I want to see how he does. But West Brom fans, let me know what you think. Are you excited? Do you agree with me? Do you think that goals will be your issue again, in my opinion, this season? It's going to be an interesting season for West Brom if they can get firing. Don't rule them out the playoffs. For me, I just don't think they'll get there, but don't rule them out just yet. In 9th place, I am going to go for Millwall. I think they had a very good end to last season. Alex Neil is a very good manager as well. I just think the squad and the manager, they've got enough to be a consistent top half team at the minute. And Millwall, who were genuinely sort of dropping down the league a little bit over the past 5 years, now propelling themselves back into the picture. Will we see Millwall back in the Premier League one day? Maybe. I don't think it will be this season. We'll have to wait and see how they get on. But again, similar to West Brom, they'll be in and around the playoffs. Maybe we'll get there, maybe won't. It's going to be an interesting one. Key player, it could have been Ivanovic, but I know there's links of him leaving, so I wanted to put someone who I know was definitely going to be there. Watch this man now get signed on deadline day or something like that. But it's going to be Japhet Tanganga. He had a great season last season. He is proving that he is Premier League quality. If you believe the rumours, there's a £2.5 million release clause for Tanganga. If that is the case, surely a Premier League club swoops in, because maybe he doesn't start straight away, but he's fantastic backup for any of the bottom half Premier League teams. But yeah, a very solid player. He'll be the key player for them this season. I have no doubt about that. The best new signing is Alfie Doherty. I think this is a wonderful transfer for Millwall, and Millwall fans, I'm sure you're very excited by this. He came to a bit of a crossroads, in my opinion. He was at Luton in the Premier League. Like, if you're Alfie Doherty, you're probably thinking, that's it now, I'm a Premier League player, because he showed all the qualities of someone similar to Leif Davis, who once they're up there, they're going to stay up there, whether it be that their team goes down and someone buys them. But regardless, that's not the case. He actually went down to League One, which is mental. But I think that he's going to have a very good season in Alex Neil's team, and I think the Millwall defence is going to be very strong. But in terms of going forward, they're going to look to this man for a lot of output as well. I'm hoping he can do well. I think Alfie Doherty is in need of a bit of a revive. It's not completely dead, but a revive of his career to push back towards the Premier League, because he is getting a little bit older now, and that window to become an established Premier League player starts with Millwall right this season. 8th place, I'm going to go for Sheffield United. Maybe slightly controversial. Maybe a lot of people have got them to finish in the playoffs. I just don't think they're going to have enough. And I'll give some reasons for it. First of all, losing Sousa. People are saying if Hamer goes, they're finished. I think they already may be finished by losing Sousa. Very good player. But as I just mentioned, if Gustavo Hamer leaves, which I think he will, they are in a lot of trouble. Gustavo Hamer is the type of player that when he leaves, you need to sign 2 players to replace him. He is that good. He does so much up the pitch, so much in defence as well. Great player, and he will be missed by Sheffield United if he inevitably does go. Maybe he stays, maybe he doesn't quite get out the door, but I think he'll be wanting to. The Premier League awaits. Gus Hamer is literally the type of player that could go to Man City and fit in. Hamer cannot spend another season in the Championship. He should be playing in the Premier League, Serie A, whatever, one of the top leagues. He can't stay for another season, surely. As well as that, Tom Cannon doesn't fill me with much confidence. I'm yet to be convinced that there is a player in there. Do I think he's a solid player? Yes. Is he the type of player that's going to push your team into the playoffs? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't see it personally. A lot of people do. A lot of people don't. It's going to be a very big season for him. He needs to hit the ground running. Key player for me, Ollie Arblaster. He is going to be potentially the one that replaces Gustavo Hamer should he go. As I mentioned, there's going to be 2 that need to do it. If they didn't want to recruit, they've got Callum O'Hare in terms of attacking output. But I think Arblaster is going to be the one that they go for in terms of that centre midfield. And I think him and Peck are going to have a very solid season. I could have gone for Peck as well for the key player. I've gone for Arblaster because I think his time is really coming to push on. Very unfortunate with the injury last season. I did feel for him. Hopefully this season he stays injury free and he proves to all the Sheffield United fans that he is the real deal and he is the type of player that will be with them should they go back to the Premier League and really try and help them fight up there. Best new signing, I've gone for Louis Barry. Now the reason I've gone for this as best signing is because Sells wanted him at Hull. Sells convinced him to go to Hull, even though there were other offers out there. And so he clearly sees Louis Barry as a player that fits his system. He's going to have to replace Raksaki from last season and the output he gave. But I think Louis Barry is at a very interesting point of his career because he comes back to Villa and there's a lot of talk of, oh, give him a chance. But it's clear that he's not quite at that level. Did well at Stockport, but now needs to prove he's going to have a very good season in the Championship. For Villa and where they're trying to get to, is he the man for the job? Maybe not. But overall, Sheffield United fans, you should be excited at the prospect of Barry. And I think he will have a good season. And clearly, as I say, Ruben Sales wants him. So let's see what he does with him. In 7th place and just missing out on the playoffs, I have got Leicester City. Main reason for this is that the transfer business has been a bit non-existent, but also as well, I'm anticipating there being a points deduction. And when I say the Championship's going to be so close this season, I think that if it is 9 points that is being spoken about, that could be the difference from getting the playoffs and not getting the playoffs, because Leicester still have a fantastic squad. Let's not forget that. But if the points deduction comes in, I think there'll be stronger teams that push above them. Let's not forget that key players could also be sold from Leicester, one of which I have down currently as the key player for the season, and that is Abdul Fatuwu. I think he, on paper, is the best winger in this league, maybe even the best player. Genuinely, if Villa were to sign him tomorrow, I would be delighted. That's how good of a player I see Fatuwu as. We all saw that clip in pre-season. He had a very bad injury last season, but he's coming back looking like a monster. If they keep hold of him, maybe even if it's just till January, he is going to be the best player in this league. They literally have the best player in this league. I will die on that hill. Now, from the best player in the league, let's go to their best transfer, and it's Asmir Begovic. Obviously, he's coming in as a backup. This is how bad the signings are. There really was no one to pick from. But Begovic has come in, annoyingly went for number 95. What do you think about that? I personally am very big on numbers. 1 should be a goalkeeper. 13, 33, 95 doesn't come into it. But yeah, Begovic has the best signing. Not much to say in terms of Leicester's transfer business. But yeah, Leicester just missing out on the playoffs. In 6th place, I have got Rob Edwards, Middlesbrough. Now, we mentioned at the start of the video that the Championship is going to be so tight this season. And I think from 6th down to maybe 10th, it could be any of them. Realistically, I have to try and predict where they're going to come, but it could be any of them. And I know that's sitting on the fence a little bit. So I've gone with Middlesbrough. And I think they're a bit of an outside shout, but I think Rob Edwards is a decent manager and he's going to want to prove himself. We know he's taken a team to the Premier League before. It's not gone well elsewhere. So now he's at Middlesbrough. He's got a very good squad. I'm expecting big things. It looks like they might keep Hayden Hackney, which is part of the reason why I've got them here. As well as that, Morgan Whittaker, he's had time to settle in. Now it's time for him to start being the player Middlesbrough need him to be, and I'm going to anticipate he has a very big season. We mentioned AD Vivash with Mark Robins. He's now with Rob Edwards at Middlesbrough. He's got a very good squad to work with. Tactically, him and Edwards will get it sorted. I think Middlesbrough should have enough to push them into the playoffs. I think Michael Carrick was a good manager, but it just didn't quite work. There was just something not right. Middlesbrough should have won so many more games last season than they did. I think put it all together, they're going to have a very good season and they're going to get the final playoff position. I've already spoken about the key player a little bit, Hayden Hackney. The fact that he is staying is such good news for Middlesbrough. Again, watch him leave now before the end of the transfer window. But Middlesbrough fans, tell me how you feel about this season. Tell me how you feel about Hayden Hackney staying. Best new signing is a bit more of a one to watch than a new signing, and it is Abdoulaye Kante. I've seen a lot of scouts on social media talk a lot of good things about him. I mean, the fact that his last name is Kante, the fact that he does play in centre mid, everything adds up for me. And the fact that he signed from the French league as well, it all adds up. But I think this is a player that clearly has a lot of potential. As I've said, lots of scouts very keen on him. So Middlesbrough might have copped themselves a real gem here. I think Middlesbrough's recruitment is actually underrated. I think they do sign a lot of good young players that maybe aren't quite the first name on the list, but they're certainly on the list, and then they develop them, and Morgan Rogers is a fantastic example of that. In 5th place, I am going to go for Coventry City. For me, they were always going to be up there. They've kept the squad from last season. At this point here, Milan Van Evik has not moved. Whether he does or not, we'll have to see. But they've already got Kane Kesler-Hayden in, who is a ready-made replacement for Van Evik if he does go. The only thing that does worry me with Coventry is potentially the attackers. Haji Wright, Ellis Sims, Thomas Asante. They all lack certain qualities, and Ellis Sims is probably the one that stands out the most in that regard. Thomas Asante off the bench is a bit of a live wire. He can bring some energy into the attack, but Ellis Sims really needs to have a good season. Whether Coventry make the move and actually sign a striker before the end of the window, we'll have to see. If they do, it will help their cause massively. Is Haji Wright a left winger? Is he a striker? I just don't know. I think he actually plays better off the left. But then where does Mason Clark come into it? If Haji Wright goes down the middle, we saw him get exposed against Sunderland. badly exposed as well. Whether he was carrying a knock in that playoff semi-final or not, to me, he is the sole reason as to why they lost the game, because he just gave no output up front. So yeah, the strikers may cause them an issue, but overall, I think Coventry have got enough. Frank Lampard coming in for Mark Robins proved that he is the man to take them forward. There was a lot of questions about Robins getting sacked, and it's proven to be a fantastic decision. What a run they went on last season. I think the home form is going to be key for them. Frank Lampard, can he take them to the playoffs again? He doesn't have the best playoff record, but I think if he's going to break it, it's going to be with Coventry. He seems settled. The squad seems settled with him. If they can get one or two more players in, I think they're going to be in a fantastic position, but I do think they're going to get fifth. Key player for them, I've gone with two. I've gone with Matt Grimes and Jack Rodoni. The reason for this and why I've chosen two is because what Matt Grimes does for Coventry is invaluable. When I see him play, the difference he's made to their side, I think Ben Sheaf is a fantastic centre midfielder, but Matt Grimes, the job he does is just so much more important. Frank Lampard obviously wants to pass out from the back, wants to build up from deep, and Matt Grimes is the perfect player to do that. Will he make a few dodgy passes here and there? Yes, that is part of the game. That's part of the role that he plays. But him, Sheaf and Rodoni together as a three is up there for one of the best three centre midfield partnerships in the league. And Matt Grimes' job feeds directly into Jack Rodoni, who I class as a bit of a Frank Lampard understudy. You've got a very similar type player learning under the man that did it best in world football, you could argue. And Jack Rodoni last season had a fantastic season, and this season I think he'll do even better. He's learning constantly, those late runs into the box, the way that he links the play. Does he have a game where he goes missing every now and then? Yes. Will he need to improve on that? Yes, he will. But I think if Coventry are going to get the playoffs, it's those two players there, the centre of the pitch, the spine of the team, that are going to have to do it for them. A weakness of Coventry's over the last few seasons, though, has been the goalkeeper position. Coventry fans, let me know. Do you think you've had a goalkeeper that is consistent and reliable since Kieran Westwood? Because genuinely, I don't think you have. Maybe Joe Murphy, but we're talking now a long, long time ago. Same for Westwood. Dovin came in last year, made a few mistakes. Brad Collins, I know you all hate Brad Collins, so I won't get started on Brad Collins. But Ben Wilson, again, how can you have a goalkeeper that wins the Golden Glove and everyone else watching goes, yeah, I tell you what, Ben Wilson, great keeper. You speak to Coventry fans and they all think he's awful. And it's the weirdest dynamic. How can you win the Golden Glove and still the fans don't rate you? And I think it's because in that season they had such a good defence in front of him. But have they now sorted the problem? Dovin, unfortunate ACL, was really fitting into his goalkeeping time at Coventry, but have they plugged the hole? Carl Rushworth, is this loan going to be the thing that takes Coventry from an outside playoff chance maybe into the playoffs? I think it will be. Brighton clearly value him very highly. Coventry fans a little bit gutted maybe that there was no buy option. Brighton know what they're doing. Last time we had someone on loan from Brighton at Coventry, well, Ayari, it didn't end very well. The time before that, Victor Gyökeres, it ended very well. So let's see if it's going to happen for them. Carl Rushworth down as the best signing. Fourth place, I've got Birmingham. It pains me to say this, and I can't believe that they're going to actually get the playoffs. And I genuinely believe they will. They've done such a good recruitment drive in League One. They basically signed a team that was almost ready for the championship. They've got up with record points and now they are here to push on. Tom Brady, the documentary, listen, it was absolutely awful to watch. Like, they actually think that they're so special. And unfortunately, on the pitch, I think they might get another boost and get the playoffs. As I mentioned, the recruitment for me is not just this season, it's last season as well. They really have built a good squad. Damari Gray, Kyogo, have these players gone there because it's a bit of a last hurrah, or are they actually going to provide goals, assists, and push Birmingham up the table? Annoyingly, I think they might. Damari Gray is more one where I look at it and think, okay, you've had a couple of years in Saudi. I don't really think that he's going to come in and hit the ground running. Obviously, on his day, Damari Gray is a fantastic player. Cannot take that away from him. Is his time in Saudi going to have affected him? Maybe. We'll have to see. Key player, Christoph Clara. What a centre-back he is. 92% of aerial duels last season. The guy is a monster. And again, him and Cashin are going to be a very good partnership. Cashin, another good signing for Birmingham. And I just think that defence is going to be very solid. Are there positions that they could do with improving? Yes, probably. It looks as though they might have missed out on Chuba Akpom. I'm not sure if they have. It's very hard to tell. But in terms of centre-backs, that is the bit where they are most solid. And I genuinely think that him and Cashin might go down as partnership of the season. Best new signing is got to be Tommy Doyle. I can't believe that Tommy Doyle's gone down to the Championship. I'm assuming it's because Wolves didn't want to sell to a potential relegation rival or loan to a potential relegation rival. But Birmingham have got him. There was a lot of clubs after him. He's chosen Birmingham. And I think this is going to go down as one of the signings of the season. It reminds me a bit of Dewsbury Hall when he was at Leicester. I think that is the level of player in which Tommy Doyle is. A player that realistically should be in the Premier League, but is in the Championship. So yeah, Birmingham fans, all jokes aside, let me know. Do you think I've got that right? Do you think you're going to get the playoffs? Do you think you'll fall slightly short? I hope you do. We'll see what happens. With Sheffield United in decline, Leicester having a bit of a points deduction and a bad transfer window, Birmingham only coming up from League One. Third place was very, very difficult to actually choose. Normally for me, we have a top three, and the top three last season obviously was in full display for a long time. But this season, I don't think we will have a top three. I think that from third all the way down to 10th could be very close, and the playoffs are going to be very tight. And we might even see on the final day teams move in position in the playoffs, determining different games that will happen for the semi-finals. So, third place, I've gone for Norwich. This one is a massive risk in terms of a prediction. I think Norwich have got a very young squad, and I think the recruitment they've made is very exciting. On paper, it's like, wow, look at this. If this all gels together, it could go really well, especially if they keep Sargent. If they lose Sargent, then honestly, forget this prediction ever exists. Norwich to finish maybe even outside the playoffs is a better shout, but they have made some very good signings. There's a lot of hype about Norwich I have brought into it. I didn't for Huddersfield in League One, who have had a bit of a similar window. Norwich, I'm not maybe making that same mistake. I'm going to go for them in third. We mentioned Josh Sargent. I think he's maybe the best striker in the league. 20 goals and assists last season. He was also injured for parts last season. So if he has an injury-free season, stays at Norwich, he will propel them into the playoffs. Josh Sargent, we mentioned him already. He's going to be the key player. 20 goals and assists last season. For me, if he stays fit and avoids injury, stays at Norwich, he will fire them into the playoffs, and I think they're going to finish top of the playoffs. I think they're going to finish third, and he is going to be a very important part of it. Best new signing / one to watch, I'm going to go with Pape Diallo. Losing Saints was a big, big deal for them, and they needed to replace well. And listen, I'm not going to act like I've watched him play loads of times, but when you look at his stats, again, highlight reels, what the Mets fans have been saying on social media, this guy is the real deal. A very high ceiling, lots of potential. In terms of excitement, this is going to be similar to how I see Nestroy Irankudu. A very, very exciting signing. And Norwich fans, let me know. What do you think of the business? Are you very excited for this season coming up? Do you think you'll finish third? Do you think you might even finish higher? Let me know. But yeah, Norwich to finish in third. It was always going to be between these two for first and second. And of course, I'm talking about Ipswich and Southampton. Both have very good squads. Both have very good managers. It's a no-brainer to have these guys 1 and 2. And with that, I genuinely think these two are in their own race this season. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Hull, Sheffield Wednesday, I see them as two teams that have got no chance. And in terms of the top end of the table, Ipswich and Southampton, I see those two as the teams that are going to run away with it. And I think it might even go down to a similar Leeds and Burnley thing from last season where it's down to the last day. But these two are going to be neck and neck. Second place, though, I had to choose one. I'm going to go for Southampton. Will Still finally made the jump to England. There's been talk of it happening before. It's never quite materialised. But Southampton is where he has chosen to begin his career in English football. It was inevitable. He was always going to come. But I think he is a large reason for why they're going to get the automatic promotion, as well as the squad. But I really think in English football, he's going to do very well. As mentioned, they've got a very good squad. So it was quite difficult to actually choose a key player. But I've gone for Cameron Archer. Personally, for me, Cameron Archer's actually had quite an unfortunate career. I think if he could have gone back and had his time again, Would he have chosen to make the move to maybe someone that wasn't in the Premier League first and drop down to the Championship? I think he might. I genuinely thought that we had the next best thing. That header he scored against Chelsea was unbelievable. And then from that point, it's just not quite happened for him. I think he ran before he could walk. And I think going into a Premier League team that weren't going to get many chances and he was always going to be scrapping around looking for the odd goal here or there has maybe damaged his career. But he is still only 23 years old. He is now in the Championship for a solid season of consecutive football, and this is going to be the season where we see the best of Cameron Archer. He is a natural-born finisher. This league will not know what hit it. If I had to predict someone to finish top scorer in the league, it's going to be Cameron Archer. Mark my words, this lad only needs one season in the Championship before he goes on to cement himself as a Premier League player. I have no doubts in my mind, so Cameron Archer, key player for me. The best new signing is actually someone who's come back from loan, and that is Shea Charles. I think Will Still is going to utilise Charles exactly how he needs him to. He's going to be the central defensive midfielder, the anchor for the team, and genuinely, I think Shea Charles has got everything he needs to push on and become a Premier League player again. And Southampton have got this young squad, similar-ish to Ipswich, but they've got this young squad. It's going to propel them into the Premier League. They weren't ready previously. With Will Still, with a few clever additions, the window's still open. I do think maybe one or two more might help them in terms of fighting Ipswich, but Shea Charles is going to be the best signing for me, even though, as I say, he's only coming back from loan, but he's going to have such an impact. At least a one to watch for the Southampton fans. As we said, champions of the Championship, it's going to be Ipswich Town. They are just simply too strong. And I have a theory about what they did last season. So Ipswich went up and they signed all of the best Championship players they could. And I think the reason for that is because if they could just get it together and stay up last season, it was a great base to build onwards. But if they also did go down, they're in the position to bounce back straight away. And I think we're seeing that now. They have got, by far, in my opinion, the best squad in the league. Couple that with Kieran McKenna as the manager, and I think the two are going to work hand in hand. How rare is it for a manager not to get sacked in the Premier League when your team gets relegated? The only other manager I can think of recently is Vincent Kompany. Look at the level that Kompany is at now at Bayern Munich. Will Kieran McKenna go on and get Ipswich promoted and then get a bigger job? I think maybe. But yeah, Ipswich, #1, champions of the Championship. Key player for me is going to be very similar to Cameron Archer. It's a player that went to the Championship, did very well, and maybe had a bit of a premature move to the Premier League. And that is Jadon Philogene-Bidace. This guy in the Championship is ridiculous. As far as a winger goes, he's so exciting to watch. He wants to beat his man, he wants to score goals, but he's also not selfish and will make that pass when he needs to. I think he's going to light the Championship up this season, and I think him, amongst other Ipswich players as well, they've got such a good base of attack, and he is going to be the main man for them this season. Best new signing, Azor Matusiwa. He has clearly come in to replace Sam Morsy. Sam Morsy, Ipswich legend, but now it is a new time, and I genuinely think they have signed a gem here. The stats speak for themselves. He is an absolute monster, and in the Championship, I said it earlier, if you have a good defensive midfielder, things happen for you in the Championship, and I think they've got one here. So Ipswich, going to be very strong. They're going to have a lot of players that could have been the key players. Look at their defence. Jacob Greaves, Dara O'Shea. They have got an unbelievable team. Leif Davis, don't forget about Leif Davis. He was very close to being my key player as well. But yeah, this season's Championship is going to be crowned by Ipswich, but it's going to be such a tight league at many different points of the table. So it's going to be very interesting to see how correct these predictions are. That is the end of the Championship predictions. Thank you so much for watching. What an exciting Championship season we've got coming this year. I simply cannot wait. The Championship season starts this weekend. We've also got League One and League Two returning, so I'm going to do an EFL predictions episode. That's going to be out on Thursday morning.